Does anyone here support fossil fuel companies? What about tobacco companies? Would anyone here invest in deforestation? What about weapons companies? Well, what if I told you that you do, we all do, every day through our pensions? Our pensions invest in all of these industries, amongst others, but most people are unaware of how their pension is invested. Globally, there is $60 trillion in pension funds. Now, not 60 million, not 60 billion, $60 trillion. To try to put that number in perspective, there are 8 billion people on planet Earth. If there were 60 trillion people, we would need 7,500 planet Earths to live on. It truly is an enormous number. So who owns all of this money? The vast majority of the $60 trillion belongs to ordinary people with regular jobs. Teachers, accountants, plumbers, and techies, all living their lives, raising their kids, paying their mortgages, and contributing to their pensions every month. And what is a pension? A pension plan is just a long-term savings plan. The idea is that people pay into the plan while they're working so that in retirement they can stop working and live on that money instead. Sounds good, right? And how does a pension work? When we put money into our pension funds, fund managers invest that money on our behalf. Very simply, they use our pension savings to invest in companies all over the world. When those companies do well, the value of our pension fund increases. But it is how that money is invested that is important. And this is where we've been going wrong. So what's the problem? We've basically been doing pensions wrong for decades. Now, traditionally, we gave our pension fund managers a very simple mandate. We said, make me as much money as possible, regardless of any damage to the planet or the people on it. Now, I don't think anyone did this intentionally, and most people were not made aware of the negative industries they would be supporting. However, we pretty much gave a free pass to the companies in our pensions to act in any way they wanted. The knock-on effects of this have now delivered some of the biggest challenges we face today. Unfortunately, the vast majority of pension funds are still invested in this traditional way, so it is a real problem. If you look under the bonnet of your own pension fund, I think you might be shocked and maybe feel a little bit disappointed when you find out what some of your money is invested in. But what if there was a better way? What if there was a sustainable way? Instead of accelerating climate change, your money could be used to alleviate it. Instead of causing pollution, your money could be directed to cleaning it up. And instead of increasing inequality, your money could be directed to support diversity, equality, and inclusion. The money in your pension can have a positive impact on the world and its people while still delivering strong returns. We need to give our fund managers a new mandate. We need to say, make me as much money as possible, but don't destroy the planet and the people on it in the process. The way we give this new mandate is by switching from traditional funds to sustainable funds. By moving our money, we are giving a new set of rules or guidelines to our pension manager, about how we want our money to be invested for the future. So, if we did this, if we switched from traditional funds to sustainable funds, what would our fund manager do differently? Well, very simply, They would take out the bad companies, add in more good companies, and work with the rest to improve. So let's take a quick look at each of these concepts. Firstly, they can take out the bad companies. Now, divesting is not perfect, but most ordinary people just do not want to be invested in these negative industries. This is about starving these negative companies of funding to encourage positive change. Secondly, your fund manager can add in more good companies. Just think of the potential here. Like we said, there is $60 trillion available to supercharge investment in things like renewable energy, green tech, sustainable infrastructure. For example, with 60 trillion, you could buy enough solar panels to generate the world's energy needs 2 or 3 times over. Lastly, your fund manager can work with the rest to improve. The most important thing to understand is that when you buy shares in a company, you become an owner of that company. If you own a company, you can have a say in how it's run. So, your pension manager can and should engage with the companies in your pension that you own and instruct them to act in a better way. I have huge admiration for activists who advocate for change from the outside, but I believe that we can have a much greater impact inside the boardroom, where as owners of these companies, we can direct them how we want them to act in our world and in creating our future. So what is the catch? Surely this is too good to be true. Well, there is no catch. There is no downside to you, the pension saver. When comparing traditional to sustainable funds, the investment returns are largely the same, the charges are largely the same, and switching is easy. Not to mention the fact that sustainable investing can actually reduce risk over the long run. This is the biggest no-brainer in history. If we look at some of the other solutions that are expected of us, whether it's to buy an electric car or to install solar panels, maybe it's to reduce our consumption of red meat or to stop flying altogether. All of these solutions are valid, but they all have a large upfront cost or they require a significant sacrifice from you. For many people, the biggest impact they can have is actually to switch their pension, for which there are no upfront costs and it's very easy to do. So this really is an easy win. So look, I want 2 things from my pension, and the first is obvious. I want to have enough money to live on in retirement. That's pretty simple. But the second is that I want to retire into a world that is safe, stable, and sustainable. Because I want to be able to enjoy my retirement and enjoy that money that I've saved up along the way. If we all stay invested in traditional funds, we can expect more climate change, more severe weather events, more droughts, more floods, more fires, significant biodiversity loss, rising sea levels, exponential pollution, and increased inequality. That's not a retirement you can enjoy. I want you all to imagine for a second if we were all to jump into a big time machine. Now, let's fast forward a few decades into the future and see what we find. What type of world will traditional investing deliver for your retirement? Now, let's try that again. What type of world would sustainable investing deliver for your retirement? I think the choice is simple. So what are your next steps? What can you do today? Firstly, if you have an individual or a private pension, talk to a financial advisor and make the switch. There are genuine sustainable options available. Next, speak to your family and friends. People are more likely to have larger pension pots the closer they are to retirement. So if they switch their fund, they can have a larger positive impact. Lastly, and the elephant in the room, is company pension schemes. Many of the world's biggest brands now portray sustainability as being at the core of their value system and their actions. But their large pension schemes are still invested in that traditional, non-sustainable way. Companies should align their brand values with their investment principles, but more importantly, employees should get to choose where their money goes and how it is invested. If you have any influence on your company pension scheme, you have an enormous responsibility to all stakeholders to reassess the investments. Whether you're in management or in finance, maybe you're in HR or procurement, you could be making this decision for everybody in your organization. So your potential for positive change is probably the greatest of all. The good news is that this is a global movement, and more people are making the switch to sustainable pensions every day. We all need to work together to accelerate that change, and this has the potential to be a real game changer, but we do need everybody on board and pulling in the same direction. At the end of the day, we only have one planet Earth, but we do have $60 trillion to try to fix it. We can keep on investing our pensions in that old traditional way, or we can switch now to create a sustainable future to retire into. You just have to decide which one of those futures you want. Thanks very much.